Yeah, so I can keep it closer. All right, so all right, I'm gonna do my best here. I've got some printouts that I'm gonna ask if you don't mind passing it on to your contacts. But let me give you a quick update on the Decentralized Storage Alliance. So, what is the Decentralized Storage Alliance? We started this effort last year. We're actually we're basically copying of what with the Ethereum Enterprise Alliance did. I don't know how many of you are familiar with the Ethereum Enterprise Alliance. Anyone? No. Okay, so Ethereum did build an enterprise alliance to bring industry analysts together to evangelize smart contracts and the Ethereum stack to the enterprise community. And what they did is they brought in, advisors from Microsoft and others to as a way to one, promote the stack, two, give them, the vendors, an opportunity to collaborate and basically align on new potential standards. And it just helped bring Ethereum into the traditional enterprise environments. And so we are doing the same thing. So last year we announced it. And as we all know, the data market is growing. I don't think I have to explain that to everyone. We've heard it enough. And we have now a ton more users and use cases. By the way, if you don't know where this is coming from, go to filecoin-explorer.com. So if you go to filecoin-explorer.com, actually, I'll show that in let me see if I can show this right now live, right? You'll actually see all the logos that we are aware of in our ecosystem of customers that are willing to share their logo as proof that they're storing data on the Filecoin network. So how many of you have seen this website, by the way? Raise hands. Oh, okay, 2 people. So basically, if you have a question, let's say one of your customers, one of your partners is asking who is storing data on Filecoin today, point them to this website. Why? Because we're maintaining this. And here you can see all the logos that we have received approval, right? Where we have received approval from to share these logos publicly. So, and then you can click through and you can actually see on the bottom also which industries of data sets are being onboarded, which regions are storing data on the Filecoin network, etc. Right? And here you can actually see the more detailed data sets that are stored through the LDN process. But my point that I'm trying to make here is, and I think this is the share button, my Mandarin is not that good. All right, so basically what we're trying to do is expand this list of logos, right? And so our mission with the Decentralized Alliance is to empower enterprises to leverage not just Filecoin, but IPFS as well, right? It's IPFS, Filecoin, libp2p, because today it is, our goal is to come in and ideally evangelize not just the Filecoin stack, but the whole stack that would allow enterprises to move their data architectures into Web3. And that's really hard, right? Because you come in, you have a conversation, and I'm sure some of you have had this as well. You can go so deep, right? If you're talking to someone who has never heard about Web3, I mean, where do you start? Sometimes it's really hard, right? So what we're trying to do is build credibility as well. So the logos you're seeing on this page here right now, there's more now vendors that have joined our community or this alliance. Like Ernst & Young, AMD, Seagate, there's Supranational, there's a couple of other vendors I cannot talk about yet that are almost going to start. They're very committed. They actually have dedicated blockchain specialists. They believe in our stack. They're building reference architectures with us. And so we are looking for more vendors to join this alliance, because our goal is not just to have logos. Our goal is for these vendors to build awareness with their customers and build improvements into the stack so that we can demonstrate not just the benefits of Web3 and the benefits of Filecoin and IPFS, but also drive change, meaning like really significant improvements that you can not achieve with traditional centralized solutions. And so these customers, actually, when we made the announcement last year, it's not even a year old, we had more than 150 people that wanted to join within the first 3 weeks. We have not just accepted anyone because we're very selective, meaning we want vendors that are committed, that deliver contribution, basically that are contributing to the ecosystem, and that are dedicating resources to improve the stack. So what's our purpose? We want to develop the bridge between Web 2 and Web 3. By the way, this is a non-for-profit entity. This is not just a website. This is an actual company, an entity that we set up that is officially allowing vendors to collaborate like any other standard body, to collaborate amongst themselves, even as competitors, to share information without sharing IP, which is important because anyone can just spin up a website. That's not a big deal. What is really important is like building the infrastructure so that we can use this to drive standards and templates. So the goal is to unite these leaders and have them being a steward for Filecoin and IPFS and libp2p. So today, what I would like to ask anyone, sorry, I keep going back. So our goal is to build reference architectures, best practices. So for example, today, Protocol Labs is a contributor to the network. Filecoin Foundation is a contributor to the network. It's really hard for Protocol Labs to come in and say, here is a best practices that we recommend in the community to implement. For example, price setting. Like we talked yesterday about, we want to attract more paying customers. Obviously, this is an open market. Any storage provider could set their own price based on their services. But there are templates like legal contracts templates, right, that we want to bring to the community that anyone can just copy, paste, and work from, just like what a Y Combinator did for their startup community. And so this is the venue to go do that. Meaning, if we would come out as Protocol Labs and promote this, it would be looking as if we're biasing and we're trying to steer the community. And so that's not what we want to do. So instead, we use this alliance, we use this company to promote new changes, best practices, and those don't have to come from PL or FF. They actually can come from the vendors themselves, right? It could be a whole template on how to integrate with, let's say, Web 2 applications. It could be best practices on how to optimize your architecture to be more cost efficient, higher performing. And so our goal is to bring in all these vendors that have an opportunity now to share their best practices through this community as well, or through this alliance as well. And so in the last year, we didn't want it to be just an announcement. We didn't want it to be just a marketing alliance, which is a part of this alliance, meaning just creating more visibility, more awareness. For example, AMD just built their own landing page and has Filecoin as sort of like the decentralized storage default on their landing page, which is amazing, because if as an AMD user or customer and you go to their landing page, you can now see Filecoin as one of the solutions that they're supporting. That's what we want to achieve. We want to have as much visibility. But the second thing we really focused on in the last year with the founding members is really to build these working groups. And the working groups are really like standing calls where we come together and we brainstorm on what we can contribute to the community, and not just like talk about things, but actually make changes. And so we started off with just the left side, Enterprise Architect Working Group, which was all about improving the performance and the optimization of the architecture. And so I'll show you what we've released so far. The next step that we are implementing right now is the Storage Provider Business Working Group. And the Business Working Group is all about templates on like, basically like templates that include contracts between a storage provider and a client, or a template on how to build a P&L for running a storage provider business. And there's a lot more discussion that's happening right now on like what are sort of the other templates, best practices that we could build, but they're more focused around the storage provider business capabilities and business-centric value props. The third one that we're introducing today, or that we're introducing this week, is the client working group. So our focus there is to really bring in ISVs, Web2 application vendors that are helping onboard more data to the network and collaborating with those ISVs to build end-to-end onboarding workflows. So for example, if you go to an enterprise customer, the idea is that you could point to one of their applications and say, I have a reference architecture, a solutions brief on how to move your data from, let's say, a database backup from Redis, or maybe it's a file server from NetApp, and move that data into Filecoin through a reference architecture that I've built through one of the working groups. So our goal there is to build more reference architectures and bring those to the community. Again, this is not just PL, FF. The goal is that these working groups are self-sustaining over time, because there's a lot of opportunity for the vendors, just like there was with cloud, to upsell their services and sell into our community and collaborate with our storage provider ecosystem. So to give you an example what we've accomplished in the last year. So again, the one on the left, the Enterprise Architecture Working Group, was the first working group. And so they came together, so they're coming together every 2 weeks. So every 2 weeks, they sit down. We have AMD, Ernst & Young, Seagate. We have a Supranational, and now we're bringing in other hardware vendors. And we discuss the Lotus implementation, the sealing process, how to configure the drives for redundancy. Is there an opportunity to introduce erasure coding? All the the traditional like reference architectures that you see in a Web2 environment, but then trying to apply this on the sealing process, the onboarding process of a Filecoin node. So in the last year, that working group really zoomed in on creating reference architectures, and they specifically they saw that the sealing overhead is really high, and one of the big cost factors in running a Filecoin node is the sealing process. But the sealing process is unique to Filecoin. At the same time, it ensures the high level of security and guarantees that no one in the ecosystem is able to cheat the system basically and create bogus data or fake data that would affect the integrity of the data when you're retrieving it. So we need to have that sealing process in place, but we could optimize it significantly. And so this team, this working group, went on a journey to optimize the sealing performance. And it's been announced a month ago, 2 months ago, I think right now, sorry. And it's called the DSA Golden Gate release. So this release basically reduced the sealing cost up to, and there's different stages in the sealing process that you probably know by now. So we have PC1, PC2, C2 improvements here. But as you can see, the impact on PC1 was 50% less memory, 8.5 times higher throughput in performance, and you could do 16 times more sectors per core CPU, so per core processor. And so the overall benefit kind of reduced the cost up to 80%. So this is a real outcome. This is software that's delivered in an open source, through an open source project, and it really directly benefits the storage provider community. So if you're a starting storage provider, before you roll out any of your architectures, have a look at the DSA Golden Gate release and verify how you can run this stack on your nodes. And so our goal here is to continue to reduce the cost. Why? Because that makes you more competitive in in offering your storage services to the enterprise market. And two, our goal is to build more reference architectures to get better efficiencies, not just from a storage provider perspective, but the goal is to bring those efficiencies to the clients. And in those conversations, what is so interesting is that in the last year, we're working with the hardware manufacturers, right? And those hardware manufacturers, they also have new technologies that are coming in. Like for example, Seagate is releasing or is very focused on their new Mammoth drives and Hammer drives. So these are high density, high capacity drives that typically are more accessible to the hyperscalers, like the cloud providers that purchase a ton of hardware on a yearly basis. And so our goal is to bring those technologies that may be initially only accessible to the cloud providers, bring those faster to our community, right? And by working directly with the hardware vendors, we can kind of figure out how can we do this faster? How can we integrate your new technologies and bring those efficiencies back to the Filecoin community? So again, this is not just about optimizing Filecoin as we know it today, but it's also to convince and educate the existing vendors and making sure that they think about Filecoin and IPFS as a use case when they design their hardware infrastructure. So again, this has been proven to work successfully in other blockchains. We're very happy and very, this is not even a year old, right? So this is very impressive that we were able to get these big logos to participate. And that to me is also how we're going to drive change, because these integrators like Ernst & Young, they sit at the C-suite level. They come in and they are looked at as sort of a trusted source that vendor or enterprises are looking at in when they're making transitions and changes in their organizations, because a lot of enterprise companies today have no idea what Web3 is able to offer to them. And so they will go towards and they will check with consultants and ask consultants, what should I do and where's my value? And so if we work with those consultants like E&Y and others, we can influence them and actually train them and make sure that they also make the right recommendations and are being an advocate for us as a community to bring those technologies to the C-suite. And then the ecosystem, as we know today, can then be delivering the actual services behind it. So my ask to everyone is help us bring more significant vendors into the ecosystem in the DSA Alliance. And I kind of, we kind of shared like a one pager just to give you some high level talking points, but really it comes down to, hey, this is a new wave. Web3 is coming. It's storage. Definitely with AI now, right? Storage is always a problem. There's never enough of budget to store the data that you want to preserve. We have a solution for you. And there's other large major vendors that are collaborating together. So we would like to see more hardware vendors, but also now Web2 application, or ISV as we call them, independent software vendors that we would like to bring into the alliance so that we can educate them and make them advocates for our software. So please help us if you know someone in some of these major accounts, and that could be a cloud provider, that could be a Web2 application software company, then please bring it forward and say, look, you can stand out in Web3. This is a new alliance. We have some major logos. You'll get the support from Protocol Labs, the Filecoin Foundation, and others major vendors that you can collaborate with. Because believe it or not, like some of these companies, they have dedicated blockchain teams, right? They have a team that's investigating Web3, and so they're reaching out to us individually. And to me, that's not a scalable business, right? Because we're very busy. We want them to talk to other vendors and then have also a little bit of a FOMO effect, right? Where they're like, oh, I'm not in this, I'm not participating, I don't know what's going on. So that's what we're trying to build here. So what's our next step? As I mentioned, what's our roadmap? And then this is the last slide. Basically, we're not a year old yet, but very excited to see the actual impact that we've made so far, the actual performance improvements that we've made. We want to do a lot more. We want to create case studies. Now, what I need your help with is the client working group. So again, if you know of any application, if you have connections into, let's say, Veeam or Veritas or IBM or any of the bigger ones. We have some big vendors already. Again, I'll talk about it, but that are actually doing stuff that we can probably make some announcements around the next couple of months. But we need your help, because my point is, it's not US, Europe, or China. It is across the globe. And we know that this is an extremely wide ecosystem. And we're looking for advisors as well, right? So this cannot just be like a PLNFF and these, Ernst & Young and Seagate alliance. It needs to, we need to bring in external advisors that are sitting at these major entities to drive forward our vision. But for the end of this year, so for Q2 and Q3, our goal right now is we're going to have in Vegas our first DSA offsite. So I mean, it's basically a summit. So we're tagging onto the Phil Vegas Summit, which is happening in 3 weeks. And we're going to sit down and kind of brainstorm on what is the strategy you want to take, what are some of the major improvements we need to make as an industry. So if you have any ideas as well, bring them forward. And if you have any members that you think would be a good fit, reach out to us, bring them, and use this scan code to QR code. Sorry, scan this QR code, or just go to the dsalliance.io. So really point them to the dsalliance.io website, and we'll pick it up from there, and like bring them into the working groups. So thank you for listening, and if you have any questions, please let me know, because I'm really excited about this. And this is a long game, right? This is going to take, years, but just to see so much interest, right, from these large organizations is super impressive. And I think we need to just continue to build on that.